All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Limitless MD. I'm your host, Vikram Raya, and today I have my good friends, Chris Colgin, who's a physician, and I have Leo, who's also the founder of Wellness Pro Funding. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
What if you could reclaim hours of free time each week, create legacy building wealth, and devote more energy to your passion projects without giving up on your career as a life-saving MD? My name is Vikram Raya, functional cardiologist, high performance coach, and real estate expert. And I'm here to give you the tools, strategies, and solutions you need to transform your life so you can unlock your limitless potential and achieve greatness, all the while freeing up your precious time. Welcome to Limitless MD. Let's dive in. So Chris has a very unique background, and him and Leo have formed Wellness Pro Funding to really help people, really physicians, that is, take their business and their life to the next level by using savvy financing, business growth, thinking like an owner and not an operator. And I'm just excited and pumped up to have both you guys on the podcast because it's going to be like a 1-2 punch. With that said, let me just share with you a little bit about Chris. He's been a chiropractor in the Bay Area for almost 25 years. And now he's figured out how not only to help grow his practice and create even a virtual practice, but he's helping wellness professionals all over the country really explode their practices by using intelligent lines of credit and loans and financing. And Leo has been an advocate by using financing and debt and lines of credit. And he has his own podcast, the Seven Figures Club podcast, which I was a guest on. He has a best-selling book, The Business Funding Formula, and he even has an app. So, guys, welcome to the show, and let's rock it.
Let's do it, my friend. Going to be fun. We love our medical professionals, and they're there to take care of our bodies. And we feel like Dr. Colgin and I are there to help them with the finance and the credit side of things that, for the most part, they don't really share a lot, in medical school.
What's the number one thing, like if we could just cut to the chase here, what's the number one thing that doctors don't know that they need to in terms of growth?
I would say the number one thing as far as in forms of growth is letting go. Okay. Delegating, right? And understanding that why would you want to do this on your own, depending on what your dreams are, where you want to go. And if you want to build something, why build it alone when it's so much easier having people along the way? We're talking about maybe an assistant, right? An admin in the office, someone to work your front desk, someone to answer the phones for you. These are all compelling things that, as a practitioner, all right, that's needed to provide that service to get more referrals, have better business, and go from there.
Let me share with you what I know. I have so many friends who are physicians. I have a lot of physicians listening to this podcast right now. And what they tell me is this: Hey, I'm running a clinic. I'm running a private practice. I'm running a urgent care center. And, I have a good team. I have a good staff, but, it's up to me to, if it's to be, it's up to me. That's their mindset. Right. And they're like, if I leave, I can't trust someone else to do what I'm doing. I'm the secret sauce. And, I can take some short vacations, but I'll lose money when I do that. So that's why I take very short vacations. And I'm on my phone and I'm on my laptop trying to balance leaving and managing my practice remotely and hoping and praying it's still going to be there when I get back. That's how the solopreneur, the W-2 dude, the, kind of, I'm an entrepreneur, but really I'm a solopreneur.
Right. And especially in that kind of case with that kind of a model, that's an urgent care clinic you were talking about.
Yeah.
When it's all said and done, the CEO of the company or the doctor who owns it shouldn't even be there, quite honestly. I mean, there's more than enough people that could carry that post, whether it's a case manager, the medical director, whoever wants to be deemed that, right? And actually, that's one. If there's ever a model when it comes to urgent care, that is the perfect model to have as almost like a franchise or just on Michael Gerber's, E-Myth principles. He even has one for the E-Myth doctor. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Oh, really? So, okay.
Yeah. So
hey, let's put that in the show notes, guys. What is that book called?
E-Myth doctor.
Okay. E-Myth doctor. There it is.
So, there's one for that. I'm a doctor of chiropractic. So he even wrote one for the chiropractor as well, because we're seeing it's all the same. We're just helping people in different ways. But I would say definitely is, especially as a medical practitioner, and depending on the state you live in too, or practice in, like California, my goodness, it's such an expensive thing to do. But for the doctors, actually, in some cases, losing money by being in that model than he is by making money in getting out, meaning being on the outside in. Act like the CEO, because his time is more valuable opening up multiple clinics rather than focusing on the one.
Can you expand on that? How so? Like how is he losing money by being in the business versus working on the business?
Well, because there's only so many hours in the day, right? So if he's locked into one place and he doesn't have a case manager or a director of the clinic to handle that job, let's face it, one of my favorite things is, what the word doctor means, right? The DR in front of it, it means "der," right? Because you're not thinking like a fun business guy. It's someone needs to get that doctor and say, look, you're better served working outside of the clinic. Let people do their job. You could still manage them remotely, all right? But then start working on the next clinic, because you already got a proven model. So if you got a proven model and you want to grow and expand that, go on to the next one, and maybe in a different area or a different state. I mean, with technology now, it is quite amazing what you can do.
So, Leo, I want to bring you into the conversation here. I've come up with, in my Limitless MD model of when I'm trying to coach doctors all over the country, I have what I call the 4 archetypes of physicians. One is this W-2 solo practitioner who has that scarcity mindset. They're solopreneurs, they're technicians, and they're like, this is my practice. I'm happy here. Maybe I'll expand it a little bit, but that's just me working more hours. That's what I mean by expanding. I'm not interested in taking on debt. I'm scared. I want to be debt free. And I just want to, do my thing, clock out, go home. The number 2 doctor is Dr. Scale. This is the doctor, Dr. Colgin was talking about Chris. Chris was saying, hey, don't think 1, think 10. Right. This is the doctor's like, I want to build this clinic, figure that out, 2, 3, 2, rinse and repeat, and then wrap the whole thing, sell it to private equity in 5 years and call it a day. Then we have Dr. 3, which is Dr. Side Hustle. Hey, I want to do this, or I may be working for someone else, but I have a passion to do something else on the side, whether it's a medical business or a non-medical business, could be a services business, something else that I want to do. Maybe it's real estate. And then Dr. 4 is Dr. Pivot. I love what I'm doing, but I'm burnt out, or I see something much better on this side. And I think I don't mind really being a CEO and letting go of the stethoscope. And I call this the stethoscope to 7 figures model, where you're completely transitioning out. So, Leo, speak to me about how maybe not the top first one. We know they're sort of fixed mindset. The next 3 are more of a growth mindset. Tell me about your thoughts on all this, and tell me about maybe how you've seen people who work with you, how you've been able to transition them.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about Dr. Side Hustle and Dr. Pivot, right? They're looking for additional opportunities. They know they're kind of stuck. Maybe they're working for someone, maybe they're working for a hospital, and they feel like maybe it's time for them to go out and start their own practice, right? They've got an idea. They've got some people who maybe would be interested in joining the team. And there's one thing that's holding them back. It's how am I going to keep paying my bills? How am I going to have enough money to get this new, medical practice off the ground? I need to get an office space, a medical space to be able to bring in patients. I need to hire people. Who knows? It might take a few months to get up and running, get my marketing, get my name out there. And so the number one factor, obviously, usually keeping those doctors from launching is usually money, right? They don't have access. They don't know about financing options that are available. They might have gone to the local bank and said, hey, I want to do this. And they're like, oh, I'm glad you're a doctor. Do you have any collateral? And the doctor's like, whoa, I have to put up all this collateral. I thought I could just start a business. And so that's what we found in helping medical professionals over the year. And that's why Dr. Colgin and I came together to start Wellness Pro Funding, to give medical practitioners and doctors an opportunity to understand that you can start a brand new business. It might even be a side hustle. It might even be, you know what, I've got some money available, but I want to actually buy a franchise and have a franchise that's not even in the medical industry making me money, or I want to start that medical practice, or, I want to be able to invest in a real estate fund like Viking Capital and be able to do what you've done. And either way, all of those things, they end up running into some kind of money wall, where if they had access to a line of credit for $100,000, to, that extra loan for $200,000 that they could use to get off the ground. And there's some really amazing options out there that most doctors don't know that are specifically tailored to help the medical professional get financing.
That's awesome. Can you tell me, like, let's say they want to start, like, let's say they're a traditional doctor, and this happened to me. I was a traditional cardiologist. I wanted to start a functional medicine practice on the side, which at some point I wanted to eventually transition to fully, but I didn't want to rock the boat. So I would want still work at my group's practice.
And that's smart. That's smart.
And so I had a hard time finding funding. I went to Bank of America. They gave me some number, not very attractive. Eventually I found a private bank that helped me, but it was really like pulling teeth. It was my head hitting a brick wall, and it hurt. So explain to me how, like why is it difficult for doctors to do this, and what are the solutions?
Ultimately, the problem is kind of the old school mentality, right? Go to your local bank, and your local bank really has one product. The local bank doesn't even lend their own money anymore for the most part. They just want to do an SBA-backed loan where 75 to 80% of the loan is guaranteed by the government, and they have very little risk. The problem with that SBA loan is it's very difficult to qualify. There's down payments. It's got to be backed almost 100% by collateral. So unless you got a multi-six-figure 401k sitting there that you want to put up as collateral for your new practice, then it's going to be very difficult. And the problem is you go in there and you say, well, I think I need about 150,000 just to feel good with everything. And they come back and they only offer you 40 or 50,000. And so what we've done is we've created this funding marketplace of different options. And we know that XYZ lender is going to give you 50. This lender is going to give you 40. This one's going to give you 70. And by bringing in 3 or 4 different funding partners all at once, now we can get you to that number you need, that $150,000 amount, if that's the amount you need, because of strategic creative financing and knowing that certain lenders will kind of cap out at a certain amount. And by bringing in multiple lenders, now we can get you there. There are even options with rates as low as 0% interest up to 18 months. There's so many different options. And we always prefer to get them more revolving lines of credit, because then you can use those, pay them down, use those, pay them down, expand the credit limit over time with the relationship, and really have opportunities to grow your business.
Chris, let me pose a question to you.
Mhm.
Leo said something really phenomenal, and I think the Dave Ramsey's of the world, the Susie Ormans have really got people really scared about debt. But what I found is, I was able to generate 7, even 8 figures of net worth by using debt intelligently. And so I want Chris to sort of expound upon the value of lines of credit and how, if you use it intelligently, you can actually explode your wealth.
Well, one of the biggest things that, my wife and I have done is, you only know what you know. And again, we both come from the, parents of the, we were kids of the 70s and 80s, whereas like, hey, get your career, go to college, buy a house, get married, and save your money, right? Especially for a rainy day. Well, those times have changed. The biggest thing I'm seeing now is, especially to explode wealth, is there's nothing wrong with going into debt, especially with what's happened in 2020 when you had your EIDL loan available, especially to doctors like me, that really helped us out. And because it helped us out significantly, we were able to invest in mastermind groups to be part of, high-end coaching. We actually, part of that journey was getting out of California, was actually taking the coaching from one of our consultants. He said, look, if you want to protect your wealth or you want to get more wealth, get the heck out of that state called California, because the things they're doing to small businesses is just criminal,
Yeah, Taxifornia, right?
Oh, right. Yeah. And so now we're in, Henderson, Nevada, just 10 minutes away from Las Vegas. There's no state income tax here. Our money goes a lot further, and our relationships have deepened with so many people out here, because we found that one of the main reasons people move here is for that and for business. But yeah, so by sometimes live into debt, especially if you're getting funding at 0% interest, that allows you the time to invest in yourself, invest into coaching, marketing, and get a return, pay that debt off in a certain period of time. And it only looks good on your credit score, not bad, because it shows that you are paying things off in a certain period of time before that 0% expires. But at the same time, too, now you're building more credit. And what in my experience has been, by doing this formula, it's actually expanded my credit profile. Instead of having 5,000, well, we're going to give you 10 now. And it's like, wow, okay, I got more credit. Well, that adds to my credit score. because if I have a lower balance and a higher amount of credit, that makes my credit score look really good fast.
So tell me about, I think in the green room, we're talking about a very interesting topic about business lines of credit, personal lines of credit, and
Yes.
learning to expand both, and really, using debt or lending or lines of credit to buy assets, whether it's your own assets, it's real estate assets, franchise, something, and low interest, essentially doing an arbitrage, buying these income generating things, and really creating this wealth vehicle. So tell us about that.
Sure. Well, one of the things I learned was I didn't really understand business credit till literally a few years ago. It was just one of those things. I knew I had it, I just didn't know how to use it. And it took me literally, after being in practice 26, 27 years, I didn't find out about what a paydex score or a DUNS number was until 5 or 6 years ago, not understanding how powerful that number is for a practitioner in business in practice for themselves. So that when you have your regular credit scores, they report to these credit bureaus, right? Your personal credit, which is Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. Well, that's for the personal side. There's this whole other end on the business side that does not report to the personal credit, and that is where your DUNS number comes in. And then once you start, but you have to understand how that system works. So there's things that I buy sometimes that I don't need, but it looks good on my business credit profile because it shows that I have an active business credit account. Okay. Some of those companies I use are like Granger, Uline, Office Depot. These are people that report to the business credit, bureaus, right?
So what you're saying, Chris, is essentially you're building up your personal credit. So you're having a high credit score personally, which most people do. But the interesting thing is that Dun and Bradstreet, which is doing the credit score for businesses, by doing these lines, like instead of going to Amazon and buying something the cheapest, maybe pay a little bit of a premium, but now you're going through Office Max, Office Depot. You buy something, pay it off. Buy something, pay it off. Now you're showing that, man, credit score higher. So now, independent of you, your business will actually have a line of credit that you can lean on, borrow from, do things with.
Right. And that's always there. It never goes away.
Okay. Let's do this. Let's get into real life case stories of how you guys have helped doctors really create growth in their business and create growth in their wealth.
I think a good example of that would be a little event that Chris and I went to last year. It was called Summer Camp. And it's funny, Chris, I think it was actually a year ago.
It was.
Last week, we were at that event, and this was in Indianapolis, and it was a great event. One of my mentors, Patrick, but David was there. And so it was awesome to hang out with him and speak. And at this event, there were about 350 doctors. We had dentists, chiropractors, different medical professionals, almost all of them, physicians of one sort or another, one field or another, and all of them there together to learn. And some of the things we talked about is, when I was up there, space, how many of you learned a lot about credit, money, and finance in college and school? Nobody's hand went up. Oh, how many would like to learn about that? Everybody's hand went up. And so we started to empower and educate. We had a personal credit and a business credit course that we gave away free to all these medical professionals. And then millions of dollars in funding was given out to these doctors all the way from Maine to California. And now fast forward a year later, and several dozen of them have received the money they need. They have doubled and in some cases tripled their revenues and their profits because they were kind of the doctor solopreneur, right? Stay small, debt is bad. And then they started to listen, well, actually debt used for personal reasons, that is the bad debt. We don't want that. But debt used for a business that generates an ROI, or as I call it, a return on loan, an ROL, that's good debt, right? That makes us money. That grows and builds our business. They were able to hire the additional, executive assistant, the additional administrative person. Some of them actually hired marketing people. How many medical practices actually have a full-time marketing person in there? Not a lot. Now these guys did because they learned in this mastermind, and then we got them the money. They were able to make the investments. They're doing what Dr. Colgin and his wife are doing, and they're growing and expanding to multiple locations. They're becoming a CEO, entrepreneur, medical professional, business owner, and they're not the technician in the trenches doing all the work anymore.
That's awesome. And literally, this can go from you retiring at age 60, had a medium to low net worth, high income for most of your life, worked a ton, and being comfortable versus creating legacy wealth. Your children's children will never have to work again, and literally you can live the best of life. And this whole thing, and your wealth doesn't go down. You have something that's actually sellable, because if you're the secret sauce, no one's going to buy it. There's nothing there to buy.
Exactly. Yes.
When you create a system where you're not involved in the system, that actually, the less involved you are, the more valuable your business becomes. And so funding is the juice that makes this whole thing happen. Right. And capital. And so wherever that capital can come from. And so Leo has just shown you a way for that to happen. And so first, it starts with mindset, like Chris was saying. Second starts with clarity, idea, structure. And then third, it starts with, hey, how do we actually manifest this? So hang around people who are doing this at a high level. Number two, get the resources you need, such as talking to someone like a Leo or a Chris. Number three, it's taking action, implementing it, and let's go. And then number four, rinse and repeat. Can you do it again? Can you do it bigger? Can you do it better? And then finally, help someone else along the way, right? Each one help one. Beautiful, guys. What's your what are you reading right now, Chris? What's on your nightstand?
Well, actually, it's a book. It's funny you say that. I'm actually reading a book called Tax-Free Wealth. This is a great book.
You don't want to pay taxes?
No, not at all. That's one of the reasons why I came here. But there's always something neat to learn from that book. That I'm also reading things, on a more of a spiritual level, putting God first in your business.
Beautiful.
That plays a big role. And because of the church that we are here in Las Vegas, we have a very conservative pastor, but he has a vision, a big vision to expand the church, to have clinics, to have multiple businesses. And he wants my wife and I to run it for him,
Nice.
to help other people in the church and things like that. So it's going more beyond what I want to do, beyond me, I should say, which is great. And it's just, we're very grateful that this particular pastor, we both agree that God's favorite sport is football, so.
There it is.
So,
how about you, Leo? What's on your nightstand? What are you reading right now?
So I just finished a book called Having It All, and it reminds me a lot of the podcast you and I did not too long ago about understanding the importance, because as a medical professional, you start to build equity, you start to build value and wealth. And now, okay, what am I going to do with this, right? And that's why I think it's so important to understand the best vehicle that you're going to be able to put that in. And at the beginning, at the first, it's still your business, right? You're not going to generate a better return other than a business that you're managing, operating, investing in. That's your number one. But then after that, money's sitting there. We know cash is trash. It's losing value in the bank account. And so where's the best place to put it?
Yes,
it's Viking capital. It's multifamily. That's the recession-proof opportunity, because there's a 5 million, housing shortage in the US. And so multifamily, I believe, and I'm invested in it. I'm certainly recommending it to our community as well, is to make sure you're generating a stronger return. And it's about doubles, right? How quickly can I double that money? And if I'm invested in the old school 401k that I was told about in college as a medical professional, and it's taking on average 12 to 13 years maybe to double, and all those fees are coming out, and now the market's down 20%, and now it's going to take me twice as long just to get back to where I was. Now time to maybe reconsider some different areas where you can generate a much stronger return.
Yeah, I totally agree. The name of the game is make the money, keep the money, invest the money, grow the money, and then use the money just for service. So that being said, guys, you guys are amazing. I love what you're doing with the doctors and a lot of other wellness professionals out there. I want to hear more about summer camp. Sounds like something I need to go attend. That being said, how do the people work with you, and how can they find out more information about you guys? What's the best place to get started?
So any medical professional listening, whoever you are right now, and you think, I just like to see what my options are. And the number one question most people ask about that is this going to hurt my credit to find out what my pre-approved options are? If you go to your local bank, it will. With us, it will not. At wellnessprofunding.com, again, specifically put together to serve medical professionals, wellnessprofunding.com. You can get your free pre-approval of options, everything from business lines of credit that do not require collateral, by the way, to business loans. We do actually have a unique SBA product right now. And then even 0% interest business credit stacking, where you can get 0% interest up to 18 months, start getting things that report to your business credit. Because I know a lot of us have had to use personal credit to get the business started, whether it's the doctor side hustle or Dr. Pivot or even Dr. Solopreneur. Maybe we had to use some of that personal funding. Let's see, as Dr. Colgin said, can we move that into the name of the business, build the business's credit up a bit? And that's all available there at wellnessprofunding.com.
Guys, wellnessprofunding.com. Check it out. Get a second opinion. Get a second opinion on your business and your financial health. And guys, if you want to grow big, get information, talk to the right people, take that leap, because we're seeing the world is you're going to be a physician. That's the worst thing in the world right now. That's your backup in life. So you have the capability to take that risk. Do it. You'll never regret exploring what could be. So with that said, guys, again, wellnessprofunding.com is a great resource. I wish I had that when I was doing some of the things that I was doing. So thank you guys. And thank you for sharing your wisdom and your experience on the podcast. And for the listeners out there, thank you for being, an avid listener to the Limitless MD podcast. And until next time, guys, be phenomenal. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Limitless MD. If you found value from this episode, I encourage you to share this episode with a friend and let me know by leaving a review. For more information, make sure you check out the links in the show notes below or simply visit vikramraya.com. So until next time, my friends, be phenomenal.